Turning now to the latest from Washington, D.C. During a press conference for the budget, President Biden was pressed by reporters about his recent comments about Russia's war on Ukraine. Today, the president clarifying what he meant when he said Russian President Vladimir Putin cannot remain in power. Here's his response.
I was expressing the moral outrage I felt toward the way Putin is dealing and the actions of this man. Just brutality of it. Half the children in Ukraine. I had just come from being with those families. But I want to make it clear, I wasn't then, nor am I now, articulating a policy change. I was expressing the moral outrage that I feel, and I make no apologies for it.
The White House has tried to downplay the comments, saying Biden was not calling for a regime change in Russia, but commenting that Putin should not be able to use his power on other countries.
20 minutes later.
Welcome back. President Biden caught using a cheat sheet of prepared answers during his White House press briefing. The card had talking points for him for reporter questions on his remarks this weekend, suggesting support for a Russian regime change. The president insisted yesterday that he is not walking back the comments that this guy cannot stay in power, which is what he said about Putin. Joining me right now is Heritage Foundation President Kevin Roberts. Kevin, good to see you. Thanks very much for being here. Is this weakness, Biden's weakness on the world stage, on display again?
Well, it's awful, Maria. It's the kind of thing that if you're Xi Jinping or Vladimir Putin, the leader of the Taliban, whoever our adversary may be, you recognize this president is not only incompetent, he's very weak. And for that matter, think about the text on the cheat sheet itself. So in other words, it's bad enough that there's a cheat sheet, but then look at the text there. This is elementary school stuff. And so I would just recommend to the president and his staff as they're sitting down today, if you're going to use a cheat sheet, write drill, baby, drill. It is time to get back to American energy independence. Maybe the rest of the world would take some encouragement from that.
Yeah, I mean, you have an op-ed out on foxnews.com right now titled Biden's Weakness in Ukraine-Russia Conflict Has Only Further Emboldened China in a New Kind of War. Tell us about it. You write, China today is a more dangerous adversary than the Soviet Union at its height. It is past time for the United States to take the CCP at its word and treat it like the dangerous strategic rival that it is. Kevin, you outline a number of moves that the U.S. should be making against Beijing, including resurrecting the China Initiative. I've been talking about this now for weeks, ever since the U.S. Overturned the China Initiative. We know that the theft of intellectual property continues, and yet now the DOJ has decided it will.
NATO summit in Brussels.
Deterrent, well, then it doesn't exist anymore as a deterrent.
Gaffe 2. In Poland over the weekend, in what was supposed to be the most important speech of his presidency, Biden, talking about Vladimir Putin, went off script again.
For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power.
That sounds an awful lot like a demand for regime change to me. The White House must have thought so too, because it moved very quickly to grab that mop. Here's the Secretary of State attempting to clean it up.
I think the President, the White House, made the point last night that, quite simply, President Putin cannot be empowered to wage war or engage in aggression.
No. Empowered is not what Biden said. Let's wind it back.
For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power.
This man cannot remain in power, is what he said. And, unsurprisingly, Vladimir Putin leapt on it. It plays into his hands perfectly, proof that the US and NATO are working to destabilise Russia. That's his view. Biden has worked his way up to this point with increasingly hostile language. The sanctions aren't having the desired effect, so he's ramped up the rhetoric. He's called Putin a war criminal and a monster. But by pressing for regime change, it's inflaming an already hot situation against a nuclear-armed military power. Now seems about the right time to bring up an old quote attributed to Barack Obama. Politico reported in 2020 that Obama told a fellow Democrat, "Don't underestimate Joe's ability to F things up." Well, we are saying it more and more about the most powerful man in the world. And more Americans are catching on. polls have dropped to new lows, with Biden now at 40% approval, according to NBC. He appears to be sleepwalking into the midterm elections with very dangerous gaffes that have far-reaching repercussions for the world. Thanks for watching.
Oh, boo-hoo! Let me play a sad song for you on the world's smallest violin.
Backpedaling after the president's unscripted comment on a Russian regime change. President Biden will try and shift the conversation, though, to his domestic agenda. Backpedaling after the president's unscripted comment on a Russian regime change. President Biden will try and shift the conversation, though, to his domestic agenda today, because in the next hour, he's rolling out his budget wish list. And it comes at a critical time. The clock is ticking before the midterm elections and a potential change in the balance of Congress. Let's talk about this some more and what Democrats are hoping to get across the finish line here. ABC political director Avery Harper joining me now. Let's take a look at what's in the budget, Avery. It includes that billionaire tax that